Welcome guys, this is Rock. If you see this video, it means that you purchased the Rich Gang and you are in the sales community. So I'm gonna go about, I've got several questions from multiple people in our group. So I'm gonna go through a lot of things. But before I do that here, let me go into a bit about me, and the credibility factor, etc. What you want to learn, what you want to know about. So again, why listen to me? Why am I in this Rich Gang community, the sales subsection, and why am I leading this group? The reason being is I've been doing multiple six figures over the last couple of years and months, for different companies and different industries, and always being the number one in our industry. And I've spoke to some of the best people there is ever on the face of the earth when it comes to sales, when it comes to psychology, when it comes to multiple different things that people want to acquire and learn, the skills of communication and expressing themselves. So saying this, guys, I also feel like I can give you a few things for yourself to be able to get to that next level in sales, and make the sort of income with yourself. And for me, exactly, like I come from the UK, and it's rainy and coldy there, but I'm here now in Romania, best part of in Europe. And you can see from my background, you can see from things I'm doing. Maybe I'll post in the community that I'm enjoying life and I'm getting the good, live the good life. And I think many of you guys, you're probably young and you probably want to find a way to be able to make an income stream. And potentially you guys are going for different avenues now. The digital era is pretty big, technology is pretty big. So what I've done here is I'm giving you a way in Rich Gang, giving you a way in sales to actually have the income that you want, to have the lifestyle, to have the free time, the money freedom, the location freedom, things that people always want, but they can never seem to kind of break through or get that right kind of way of doing things. Okay, so I have a list of questions here. So I'm gonna go through a lot of these questions for you guys, and then if you have additional questions, we can probably do another call on this. All these questions I've got they're very good questions, and I'll go through all the questions I can in hopefully much detail. If I still you do not understand the subject or topic, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll go through anything that you want. So the first question I've got here, and this is not in any particular order, but I found this here. So it says, how did your journey in sales start? So with my journey, what's happened is I was, this is over 10 years ago, a decade ago, and I wanted to become a sales, I wanted to actually become wealthy. I actually wanted to become financially free. So one of my good mentors, he's a multi-millionaire. He didn't want me to do any like online digital business or e-commerce or any, things that we have now, affiliate marketing, that's another big one. So what he said to me instead is, I want you to go learn the art of communication, and actually sell and actually present yourself to people. And I was like, why sales? But he was very persistent, this mentor of mine. And so I was a very shy person. And, as you can imagine, a shy person don't really equate well in sales, but at least I went out and did what I can. So what I did is I ended up going to my first sales job because I applied for so many and I did not get any sales job. I was not getting even a normal job at this rate. So the first ever sales job, and this is the only job that really offered me a place, was actually a door-to-door knocking on people's doors, to sell and communicate with them. And I don't know about you, but if you're from the UK, the weather, it rains all the time, it's very cold. So I ended up taking this job, and me being like a shy, introverted person, I completely sucked at sales. Like I wasn't making any numbers, I wasn't doing good. I barely even wanted to knock on people's doors. But again, this mentor was persistent to me. So I kept doing this. My first week I sucked, the second week sucked. But then suddenly, all of a sudden, I started to learn, have pattern recognition and actually get good at communicating and selling. And so it was a game changer. Like I started to learn how other people were selling as well and doing the door-to-door knocking. And I started to copy exactly what they started doing. I got better in sales. And then I kind of grew to a point where I'm doing, I don't know, several couple of thousand, several tens of thousands in a week and a month now. I'm doing massive, huge deals. But again, I come from that door knocking place. So I started doing door to door knocking. I then grew into more of an office kind of scenario on sales, where it's still outbound calling and it's like cold calling, but I learned a lot of things from that. Then I went through the next thing here, which was more of a face-to-face communication sales, office-based selling, and went all the way to now what I do now is I can close anywhere in the world, make several thousand, and enjoy my life and do what I want. Pretty much write my own paycheck. I work with the best people in this industry that I can ever imagine. I only work very few hours a day, but the rest of the day I enjoy. So if that's the lifestyle you want, this is pretty much a good opportunity, especially in sales, that you can replicate this. I don't know about any other industries that you can work for a short amount of time and still live that good life that people want. So let's go to the second question. So why do you think sales is a good skill to acquire? Like I said, I was saying about the lifestyle, writing your own paycheck, which you can pretty much do. The other reason why I think sales is a great skill to acquire is because I don't know about you guys, but in sales, if you know, it actually is in everything that you do, right? So, for example, if you want a better spouse, wife, girlfriend, this you have to learn how to persuade the other person. If you're doing not just with selling something, you've got also family members, you've got business partners, acquaintances, friends. You've got to learn how to persuade them. You've got important people like authorities, like if you're dealing with lawyers, politicians, people who deal with major stuff in the city, banks. You've got to learn how to. What sales also does, it helps you to be an expert at communicating your thoughts and ideas, and also be able to find way in finding the best way to present yourself and getting the best result from that interaction. So that's what I learned also within sales as well. This is why I think it's such a major skill to acquire. Now, why learn also sales is because if you learn the ability to sell, like my mentor was telling me at that time, is if you learn how to sell and you can do really very good at it, you'll always write your own paycheck. You'll never go broke. You always can go anywhere, any industry, and make money. And it's pretty much true, like print money. If you need money, you can just go into sales, make some money from sales. So it's very great way of a source of income if you need quick money as well. So let's say you're in a bad position in life, you need rent payments, credit card payments. If you went in a sales job, start selling, making a lot of commission, get paid, make sure the company is a legit company and they pay you on time, you will do very well for yourself. And there's actually several stories of multimillionaires and also billionaires who go homeless and they had a sales job and they crush it and they get back onto their feet. One example, for example, one woman like Danny Johnson, like she was in sales as well. She really got back into the top of her. She was already a top person, but then something happened to her. She went back down in life and she went back into selling and she started rebuilding and then she started building her brand and she just grew and grew from there. Okay. So I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why you should learn how to sell. You can persuade, people and have your way in life, make your own ticket of freedom in life. So go to the next question so I can see how can I create a sense of urgency without being pushy. So it's a great question to have. So if you're trying to create an urgency within someone without being pushy, what you have to realize and understand is there's three forms of selling, I say. So the first selling is you communicating to someone an idea or a features and benefits I'm selling. For example, let's say you're selling a car, this car is blue, this car has 100 horsepower. The second form of communication is you having almost like, it's like a back and forth discussion with that person. So they tell you one thing and you have to tell your way, and they tell you something and then you tell your way. And then there's a final way of communication, which is the most persuasive way of communication, and it's called dialogue. Now, dialogue is where a customer, instead of you telling them or you telling or having a sort of a yes and no conversation with them, they are telling themselves about a product, about a thing, about something that they want to purchase. For example, let's say a car. So someone came in and they wanted to purchase a car, instead of me saying this car has 15 15,000 horsepower or something, or the color is, the interior of the car is phenomenal, or the wheels on this are very good. And the second form of communication is telling me, hey, yeah, but I really don't need this I only need this for going to A and B, to pick up my children. And then the third form is them saying to yourself, hey, I really need this car because I want to be able to go, on the long journeys. I want to be able to, have a car so I can show people without me having to say literally nothing. So that is probably the most, and I'll give you an example on this. So that is probably the most persuasive way of sales, is when the customer sells themselves and they sell themselves in their own story. So going to the next question here. So, and how can you improve your productivity in sales? Is the vibration you have important? Yes. So in sales, if you realize, if you want to improve and go to a whole nother level in sales, it's all about the state of mind that you're in. It's all about the confidence that you carry, the energy, the vibration, we call it in sales, that people buy into. Now, the funny thing is that, you can have, let's say in a typical company, you can have 20 salespeople, but there's always one person always selling a lot more than everyone else. And it's the same features, same product that they're buying, it's the same features and benefits. What you have to realize in sales is, or anywhere in life actually, is they never actually really buy the product or service. Let's say, for example, a big flat screen TV. You went shopping to buy a big flat screen TV. You go to a shop, yeah, that shop has this one person who's always selling about 40 flat screen TVs, while everyone else is selling 20 or 15 less. And what that reason is because that the customers that walk in through that door, they did not buy obviously the product. They obviously buy the product, but they're actually buying you. They're actually buying you as a person. And many people don't realize this, but it's the most important thing. So when we say you need to improve, like when you're talking about product, how do you improve this productivity? How do you improve this vibration? The reason why people buy off someone they like and trust is because it's about vibration that people are giving off. Like, let's say this salesperson who's doing 40 flat screen TVs every single month, he has a high vibration. He's transferring that vibration, that emotional state, to that customers who come in through that door and buy. So whenever that be a happy state, whenever that be a confident state, whenever that be, a calm or even a peaceful state, they are buying into that state. And that's why he's making much more money than the rest of the individuals who are not elevating their vibration. Going to the next question. So here we've got this next question here. It says, what are some common mistakes that salespeople make when closing deals? This is a great question, and I actually get this question quite a lot. So a lot of common mistakes that salespeople tend to do, especially even in nowadays in this era, in any company or industry, is they usually, when it comes to selling, they're always performing at that first mode of communication, which is features and benefits. Now, the funny thing is, if your customers really want to know about features and benefits for, let's say, a laptop or a microwave or a fridge, they can just go onto the internet and just Google the features and benefits. They really don't need you whatsoever. They can find, and internet has changed it big time. Like, they can see the reviews, they can see, stories, everything, the reviews, customers, complaints, every single thing, features, benefits, how much, what's the EDR rating. They do not need you as a salesperson. So a lot of the common mistakes that I see a typical salesperson would do is they just go into telling a customer features and benefits, and they're failing to realize that what they really need to do is actually pay attention a lot more to the customer and listen to what their customer really wants and needs. So that is probably like what a lot of salespeople are failing to do. What you need is someone to, when a customer walks into the door, they actually looking for someone that can, empathize with them with their problem. But a salesperson completely neglects, a normal salesperson or someone who's not doing so well neglects this and just goes into this mode, autopilot mode, of just telling them, hey, this and that about the product, when they should be really finding out why the customer was actually there in the first place. So, for example, we have this saying like, instead of you being a product pusher, this is what I'm trying to explain exactly, start becoming more of a problem finder and a problem solver. Very, 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 very important phrase I'm here saying here. So I'll say again, instead of becoming a product pusher, become a problem finder and a problem solver. Okay. And you'll see, if you start taking this route example, you'll see your sales will quadruple or even 4x on what you're doing if you have this mindset and way of doing things. So going to the next question. So how do I determine the best closing approach based on customers' personality? Again, this is a great question. Now, what people don't realize is, especially, average or below average salespeople, is they just think selling is, everyone's the same. You just talk a little small talk and then you start selling something. It does not work like that. Everybody in life is different. And your job as a salesperson is to become an extension of who that person is. So, for example, let's say someone who liked MMA, for example, they walk into the store and I speak to that person, and what I would want to do is become more of what they like, and so I can build that kind of rapport in their mind in the same way. So, for example, I might know a bit about MMA, for example, and talk to them about those things. And that way, the customer feels a lot more of a trust and a rapport and a connection with you before they buy into anything. Now, how do you determine the best kind of customer personality? You have to learn about the different types of personalities there is in human psychology and human nature. But I know a few people have talked about this subject about human psychology, and there's a breakdown. I can give a very small version of this, and it will take me hours going into further extents of personalities. But usually there's a kind of four combo here that I've usually typically found in a sales approach. So you have P for practical people, A for action-oriented people, S for very social people, and E for very emotional people. And I'll give you an example on this. For example, practical people are people who are like, they want to be able to, they're more of a, maths person, like the word practical. They're more of an engineer types. They're very like thought process kind of individuals. They want to learn, they need 50 reasons on something. And you have to become that practical person in that place when you're talking and dealing with that customer, so that person can, see eye to eye, and then you take it one step forward and get that person to buy, purchase, sell. So P stands for practical, A for action-oriented people. Action-oriented people, like the get-go people, they just come in and they want to do things quick. Let's do it now. You also find people like, hey, just give me the price. They're action-oriented people. They're more into like sports people. Everything is just like it says in the word action. S stands for social people, but these people and customers will come into your store or wherever you're selling or talking on the phone with. They actually just want to become your friend. And they will simply do a deal with you if you can create that kind of friendship bond. So these are very social people. They have a lot of friends. They, have a lot of lengthy conversations. You're expected to have multiple conversations with them before a deal is closed. And then you got the final one, which is E. So E stands for emotional people here. Emotional people are very emotionally driven, and a lot of them are driven like things by like fear. It's about that emotional connection again that you need to create. They're very, very emotionally oriented, and if you can create that, they will, if you see them even talk, they're very emotional. You speak to that kind of level, and then you can also persuade those people to actually buy. So they're very, and usually population is about 25% of each of those four things that we said to you each. So you just need to figure out who's what, and then go through that approach with them. So going to the next question here. So What are some mistakes that salespeople make when closing deals? I guess this is a great question. So the mistakes that I see a lot of salespeople do is, they are like hardcore closers, buy now kind of type. If you don't buy this, I'm gonna do this to you. Like, very like it's just crazy. They just want, buy now. It's like boiler room selling, getting the phone, slamming the phone, product pushing, product buy, and crazy amount of things that people do. This is probably the most worst and detrimental way of doing communication and sales. And here's the reason why. If you, for example, missold something to a customer by using this features and benefits way of selling, they can go to the web, to the internet, talk about your company, your whole product service line, and actually give you a bad review. And then all it takes is one review and it can completely shut your business down, and you having less people come in and buy your services and products. So what you have to realize is this is probably the most common error, common, should I say, mistake that salespeople make when they're not listening to customers, when they come in, they're taking calls without really being present. Big, big, big issue. They've got something else on their mind. They're not empathizing with a customer again. Um, Things of these natures can destroy your sales and can destroy, reputation of your company and the things that you said. So the next question here is, what are some of the signs that indicate it's ready to be closed? So this question here is a very good question. The indication to when prospects are ready to be closed, they have buying signals and buying patterns. And then what happens is when you deal with, there's customers like, I'll tell you, for example, it can be a couple of customers. One customer comes in and they're all ready to buy. They're in the emotional state, they're ready to buy, they know what they want, and they just go there and get out the door. But you probably on a daily basis deal with people who do not want to buy at all. They're in a faulty mood or in a bad mood. And what you have to do is you have to talk to those people and change they shift their state, and so they become in a way a neutral, so they become in a neutral state. Then you can start closing, and then you can get them more happy when they sign that paper ready to buy that car, service, or product that you're selling. So what are some of the indications on that? You'll see, for example, you'll see the tonality of the customer, the body language, the eyes dilate. A lot of it has to do with body language, with what they do with the non-verbal cues. Uh, Another thing is words that if you're closing on the phone and you can't see this person, the words that they use, what they're expressing, what are some of the concerns or objections that they have, and if you find some of the concerns that they have is a lot less, those people tend to buy. You just asking for, a simple thing, hey, let's do an agreement here. Are they ready to move forward? You can feel it as well once you have plenty of experience in doing this. Next question here is, what are some creative ways to insensitize prospects to commit during the closing phase? So what you need to do is when you're dealing with people, a creative way of dealing with this is, have someone leave a deposit. It's a very easy way of, doing selling. Have someone, for a big ticket item, for example, have someone leave us something called commitment down. Have someone do an agreement as well. Tell them, tell a prospect or a customer actually, or a lead, that, if they do not follow through on what they're doing, if you're going to do something now, they agree that they're going to follow through for all the things that they need to do, etc. That kind of thing. So the next question is, how do you deal with rejection? So with rejection, in sales, when I first started, I was getting rejected quite a lot. Salespeople usually have thick skin in the game, so you want to be able to get rejected. You want to be able to have the confidence, and you need to get back up and get going when you get rejected. But there are ways in your sales approach, in ways that you do things, if you do things correctly, you can be in a way where you don't have to get rejected. You get less likely a rejection if you're very smooth with the process. You know the right things to say, or right way of controlling the sale and the conversation. You should be completely fine. Going to the next question, how do you build rapport with the customers? Again, this goes back to the questions I was answering in the beginning. The way you build rapport with the customer is becoming a great listener and asking the questions at the right time. How do you do dialogue in the most efficient way? So that's the third way of communication, is have them persuade themselves by asking them questions at the right time, right emotional questions, so they naturally build rapport with yourself, and they trust you more. There's more advanced topics that I can go into, and I can speak about a lot about this rapport part. I'll give you an example. Like the most basic one you could do is have a similar conversation with them in a certain subject or area. And the most highest level is, copying their breathing patterns, which is very, very advanced, or copying, mirror matching things that they do, or they state. And that way you build a commonality and a rapport with the customer. So going to the next question here is, I know you rock listen to sales calls. Why is it a good thing? The reason why listen to your calls is a very good thing is because you get feedback analysis in a very, very short amount of time. Sales, one of the best things about sales is, if you've won or if you've done well when you're doing sales calls, if the person buys. If the person did not buy, it means you probably did not communicate well or could sell efficiently, effectively. So that's probably one of the best things, why you should listen to your sales calls. Because if you can go back to listening to your sales calls, you understand what you've missed, what you've done. One of my other mentors, I mean, I have several mentors in sales and communication. So one of my other sales told me as well, mentors told me, like, hey, if you want to be average salespeople, just do sales calls every day. They practice, they do 100 calls per day, every single day. But the best ones usually are the ones who always listen back to the calls and find ways of improving what they've missed out on, like what they've not done and what they could do. So if you could do that, you'll be well ahead of the curve among many salespeople out there. Going to the next question, how do I measure the effectiveness of my sales techniques and track my progress over time? Again, answering that question, this is a very similar question. Did that person buy or did not buy? Over time, if you are, for example, this is a good metric as well, comparisons and see what other salespeople are doing. If you are not replicating or doing way better than what they are doing in the company, that means you need to change your sales technique or the way you need to present or close or communicate. You usually, with what we're teaching here, should be the best at what you do, or at least in the top three. I've always been in number one, number two, number three. Always depends on different times of months, but you tracking yourself. Look, how do you track things? Is look at how many customers you talk to, look how many sales conversations you had, look how many people gone to the calls, and look how many people actually brought after you've done the closing call. Okay, so the next question kind of ties into this. It says, how can I improve my conversions in sales? Again, you listen to your calls again, and you seeing if the person buy, and analyzing your calls gives you an edge over everything that you could possibly do in sales. It's probably the best way. Another way you can also improve your conversions, obviously get information, learning things, new things that you need to do, learning psychology, basic stuff that we teach you. Using this group, you can, for example, the things that you'll learn here about sales psychology, about people, human metrics, all of these things will drastically, if you put what we put into action, will improve your sales conversions through the roof. Okay. So next question is, if I'm starting in sales, how can I advance quickly? This subgroup is really designed to get you to where you want it to be. We'll cover every single thing in sales, what you need to do, how you can advance very, very quickly, get to the top level in sales. And a lot of it, even though if I can teach you all the techniques in the world and everything you need to know about communication and the best way of selling, you still need to put it into practice. It's almost like driving a car or riding a bike. The more you practice, the more you will get very good at what we're doing here. Okay. Another question is, how important is tonality? Tonality is super, super important. And the reason is this, because tonality can create almost many types of emotions in people. Like you can create just with your tone of voice can create masses and masses of emotional states and transfers to that you need to do with people. So, for example, if I start whispering, for example, it creates impression in the mind that what I'm about to say to people is very secretive. It's very high. You should listen to it, lean in more. Other ways is having another tonality pattern you can use is, asking questions like that question, like, it gets them thinking. It's really in sales is it's not about what you say, it's how you say it, and that works in every single thing that you do in life as well. Let's see. I mean, we're coming to the end of this, so I've got a few more questions here, and I'll address them, and we'll come to the end of our time. So, what does it mean by knowing your numbers in sales? Knowing your numbers in sales means, like, let's say, for example, you had a company gave you 20 leads a day or 50 leads a day. Well, we'll go to 20 because 20 is pretty much where you will start, or maybe 6 or 7 leads, depends on the type of the leads. You have to know how many people that you spoke to, how many people you've, got on a call with. You have to understand, like, how many calls did you go through? Did they go through the whole process? Did they close? Did they buy? You need to know exact every single number, how many people showed up, how many people went to the second day call, how many people went to the closing call and bought. This is what it means by knowing your numbers in sales. You have to know your numbers in sales, guys, because again, if you want to improve, you need the statistical information that you need. Understanding that it will be a game changer if you know your numbers in sales. What resources or tools do you recommend for improving sales closing skills? And there's a tons of books and courses you can take on sales, but there's only a very handful after going through every single book I know about in sales. Going through my favorite book for this is Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. It's one of the best books in sales. You have to understand that what you're doing is you're not practicing a script, you're not doing anything. Everything you're doing in sales is something called emotional intelligence. Okay. Another one is called Sorokat's Way of Selling. That is also giving you understanding of the third form of selling, the communication I've just said, the most highest and persuasive one of what you do. So it's very important that you go through that. And we'll go for one more question, guys, and then we'll wrap this up. If you have more questions, we'll probably do another one of this, or we'll be on a live call. So last question here I've got is, how do I differentiate between a genuine objection and a smoke screen? Now, this is a good thing. Someone who's asked this is very, it's a very important thing that they've asked this, because we all get this thing where you speak to the prospects and customers, and then at the end of the sale, they say, hey, I need to talk to my wife, or I need to talk to the freaking tooth fairy or something. And you have to distinguish, are they needing to talk to their wife to make a decision, or are they saying this to get rid of you on the phone or on a sales interaction call? Okay, and the way how you do this is you have to go for a certain way of selling, the way I sell, to understand where they're at and to understand their buying patterns, and then to see if they're really there to actually buy something, or they're just wasting your time, So if you follow the sales process that we got here, which I'll again post into this here shortly, if you follow A to Z, you will know if they're wasting your time, or are they actually needing to speak to the wife because they, somewhat, make a decision with their wife. Some people do this. So, the way you can also distinguish this between this objection and the smoke screen is, you have to, once you start doing what we're teaching here, or what I'm teaching you guys, you'll understand and figure out, like, where you start to feel it as well. You start to develop an instinctual need, instinctual pattern here. So when you start speaking to people, you understand what they are saying and what they are wasting their time, that kind of thing. So guys, that's all the questions I can go through for now. If you've got any more questions, feel free to send them in my way, and we'll have my team look at them. And I will get back to everyone on this call, and answer. We'll do a Q&A soon. So again, guys, thanks for coming here, and if any more questions, we'll go from there.